Hey everybody out there in YouTube land, Jake of the OneManBand is back again, and welcome back to another RWBY review. And this time we're taking a look at Volume 5, Episode 6. Now I don't know about you, but this episode is definitely the kind of episode that had me thinking, oh, this episode is for someone like me. Let's get started. So the episode opens up with us rejoining Crow. Now we haven't seen Crow in a while. I think ever since episode 2 or maybe 3. And as he stated in that episode, he's currently searching for a bunch of huntsmen that are going to be able to help him and Team Ranger recover the Spring Maiden from Raven. And so he enters a form of ramen shop looking for a huntsman. And I know that many of these huntsmen that he's looking for have names, but right now I just don't really have the time to break down every single name and try to give a story to each one of these people. Maybe I'll do that later. But right now, he's just looking for one of his former huntsman buddies. And so he talks to the keeper of this ramen shop, asking if he's seen him. And I am glad to say that the barkeep, the keeper of this ramen shop, he is voiced by none other than Lanny Pator from Team 4 Star. And I am so happy to hear his voice coming from someone in RWBY. And I know, upon further inspection, he also voiced Yuma back in the previous episode, the Bat Faunus guy. But just hearing his voice in RWBY made me so excited, because not only is Rooster Teeth getting well-known voice actors to do voices for RWBY, but they're also getting lesser-known voice actors. This guy, he does Dragon Ball Z abridged, he does like Hellsing abridged, he does lots of abridging, and I know he has had some voice roles for like video games or such, but to hear his voice in RWBY just gives me hope that at least at some point there may be other big YouTube voice actors that might get into RWBY somehow. My money is either on Little Karibo or No Whacking being next, and I will die of happiness if that's the case. However, when Crow says that he's good friends with this huntsman that he's looking for, he soon realizes that the keeper of this ramen shop, he isn't that big a fan of huntsmen, especially the huntsman that Crow's looking for. Apparently, this huntsman owes quite a bit of money at this ramen shop. And he goes as far as to say that this huntsman that Crow's looking for is a dirtbag, down on his luck. He's just someone that he doesn't want to be around until he pays his debt. So, we get some knowledge that this huntsman is missing, and no one really has any idea where he is. And so Crow quickly makes his escape from this establishment, being able to dodge a knife that almost goes into his head. And I know a lot of people were freaking out about that when the teaser for this episode came out. And as he exits the establishment and goes on his way, marking off the name of the huntsman in his list, we see a sign outside of the shop that says "No Faunus." And I am so freaking glad that this has finally happened. I have been spouting for the last 2 years. There is no physical representation of faunus discrimination in this world. It's talked about so much, but it's never shown. That right there is it. That is right there is what I was wanting. It's a small thing, I know. And yeah, it's terrible, no faunus allowed, it's terrible. But we finally have hardcore evidence of faunus discrimination in the world of Remnant, in Mistral. And I am just so glad that it's finally there. Now, I might be tooting my own horn here, but I am aware that there are some people, part of RWBY, that have actually watched some of my stuff. I've met them at RTX, and they've actually stated that they have watched my stuff. So, I almost feel like that was put in there specifically for me because I was bitching about it so much. Once again, oh, humble Jake being super humble, but I still just think that, you know, that might be the case. Or maybe they just wanted to really put that in there to give a physical representation of funnest discrimination. I am just glad that it's there. That way I can call back to it and say, okay, we finally got some hardcore funnest discrimination. But as Crow goes along looking for all the huntsmen that are on his list, he keeps coming to dead ends. No one has either seen them or they're just completely gone. And he slowly goes down his list, marking off every single name, until he comes to the abode of the last huntress on his list. And when he knocks on the door, what he finds isn't the huntress he's looking for, but rather a sad-looking man. And when he asks if the huntress is there, a young girl comes to her father's side and asks if Crow knows where Mommy went, or where Mommy is. So, we get an idea that this huntress was the husband to this man and the mother to this little girl. And so then Crow, he simply walks away from the situation and apologizes for disturbing what was going on there. And as he walks away, he goes for his flask to take a drink, but instead he puts it back in his jacket. Now, this is important, but for probably more reasons than you think. The obvious reason is that, oh, this huntsman is no longer around. You know, the little girl, you know, doesn't, you know, her mommy's been gone for a while. So it's obvious this huntress is probably dead, probably gone. So, we finally, you know, we get that realization from that, this interaction. Yet, there's something more in this interaction. By the way Crow acts in this scene, it almost seems as if he's been through this before. And to be honest, I believe that what he saw there just reminded him too much of Ruby. That little girl was once Ruby, asking where Mommy is and if Crow knows where Mommy went. And Summer Rose was the huntress who went off on a mission and never came back. That's why Crow goes for his flask, so that he can maybe dull the pain. But instead, he puts his flask away, deciding to, you know, carry that burden, and knows that the memory will pass in time. That's why when the little girl comes up, he instantly changes focus and is just like, hey, it's okay, you know, and just leaves. Before then, he was asking the gentleman, you know, where she was, if he can find her, where can he find her. But once the little girl came up, he completely changed his colors and just took himself out of the situation. This shows that Crow values family a lot, especially when that family is connected to a huntress or a huntsman, because that person is going off, risking their lives every single day for the betterment of all of mankind. And it's even more amazing, you know, how he cares about families, because due to his semblance, that's something he can't really have. He'll just bring misfortune to them. Like what I was saying in a previous episode when we found out what Raven's semblance was. They're opposites of each other. Crow wants to have a family, wants to have connections, but really can't due to his semblance of misfortune. Now, this isn't the only insight we get into Crow's personality in this episode, but we see that as he's marking off the last of the names on his list, he's at the Huntsman Contract Messenger board, where he can easily see the contracts available for huntsmen that they can take up, go out, do, and be paid for it. And as he starts to realize the names that he's looking for on his list are also on the board as huntsmen that have taken up these missions and gone out on them. Yet, we see that all of these missions are not completed and are completely overdue. Some of them dating back to 8 weeks ago that they started this mission, but are still not completed. So it almost seems almost every single one of the huntsmen that was on Crow's list has gone out on a mission and just never came back. Now we know that the situation in Mistral is bad, there are still a lot of grim attacks going on due to the spread out nature of the villages in Mistral. So, the huntsmen are getting their work done. Yet, it seems strange that so many huntsmen are falling in battle and going missing. Even Crow makes a comment about this later on in the episode. He could understand maybe one or two of them, but all of them. That just doesn't seem correct. And this is all playing into Salem's overall plan, with the assault on Haven Academy and the acquisition of the relic there. If there are no huntsmen to defend it, well then, it's just going to be easy peasy lemon squeezy. But if there were huntsmen to defend there, then there might be some range of failure that might come into it. Pretty much Salem is covering all of her bases by taking out the pawns as fast as she can and as efficiently as she can. So, according to Crow's list, there are almost no huntsmen worthy of being trusted with such a task that they're about to go on to left in Mistral. There may be one or two of them hiding out somewhere, or one or two of them still out in the wild that haven't died, or maybe were captured by Salem in some way. But all of them are unavailable to help with Crow's mission to acquire the Spring Maiden. And this is when Crow returns to the ramen shop that he almost got stabbed at, and when the keeper of the shop sees that he's returned, he simply states, "Well, you better be here for a good reason," and Crow offers to pay the dead huntsman's debt. And when Crow is able, and when Crow does it, he says that his name is clear. And the keeper of the shop, he understands what's going on. He understands, oh, he's dead. He's gone. And so he agrees, yeah, his name's clear. And then he even says to himself, what an idiot, as in referring to this huntsman that went out. Which means that there was at least at some point where this huntsman and this keeper of this ramen shop were actually probably friends, if not good acquaintances, to the point where they would call each other friends and would care about each other. And this also shows that Crow cares about the reputation of fellow huntsmen. He didn't want this huntsman's name to be slandered, to be left in the dirt as someone who wouldn't pay off his debt or couldn't because he was now dead. He cleared his name and made it so that the keeper of this ramen shop no longer held any animosity towards this guy. Crow cares about people. He cares about family. He cares about comrades. He cares about the huntsman name. And he was willing to pay a very pretty penny to clear the name of someone who maybe Crow didn't even know all that well. I mean, he did state that, you know, they were friends, buddies, you know, they did hang out with each other a little bit, but it's not like this guy was Tai Yang or Ruby or anything. It's so amazing to see. In this scene alone, we learn so much more about Crow, and I absolutely love it. We learn that he cares about family so much, and that he carries the weight of Summer's death and Ruby asking where her mother is with him. And we also learn that he cares about the reputation of the Huntsman and the Huntsman name and title. And so with that, we transition from one extreme to the other. We rejoin Yang, Weiss, and Raven at Raven's bandit camp. Now, Raven starts to tell Yang and Weiss pretty much her life story as well as her life's philosophy. By the way she says things, she's pretty much stating that, you know, history is written by the victor. Even though that victor may have done terrible things and may be some form of monster, they are not truly a monster according to history. And she is referring to Ozpin in this situation. She obviously holds some form of animosity towards Ozpin for some really unknown reason, and I know that she kind of gives reasons later on in this episode. I just don't find them really all that good. However, she does confirm that her and Crow did not enter the Huntsman Academy simply to protect humanity. They entered the Huntsman Academies to learn how to kill huntsmen. They entered the Huntsman Academies because they were part of a bandit tribe. they were part of the bandit tribe that Raven is now the head of. And they joined so that they could learn the huntsman's secrets and become just as strong as them. Because huntsmen were the only true warriors in the land that could, you know, mess things up for the bandit tribe. And so I think that this confirms one of the theories that I put out, that they joined the Huntsman Academy simply to get stronger for the sake of their tribe. And I'll try to find the video where I state this and leave a link to it down below. And it's due to this secret mission that her and her brother were on that she believed is why Ozpin took such a keen notice to them back when they were at Beacon Academy. But rather, it was Team Stark that he was interested in. And we learn that, much like Team RWBY, Team Stark was able to get away with a lot of things that weren't normal for teams at any of the academies. So Ozpin has his favorites, and this may not confirm it, but it does give more proof towards another theory that I have, that Ozpin is looking for the perfect combination of people to take on Salem. Raven even states that, you know, Team RWBY, they get along really well and all this stuff, and it, I would think, reminds Raven of Team Stark, to the fact that there is a group of fighters that are going to have such good synergy with each other, and maybe just have the right set of skills in order to take on Salem. And, you know, that's the theory that I have, that Ozpin is searching for that perfect team to either go out and kill Salem, or to join him to go and fight and destroy Salem. And once again, I'm going to try to find the video where I talk about this theory, leave a link down in the description for you. However, Yang and Weiss still don't really understand where Raven is going with all this. So Raven asks, what do they truly know about Ozpin? And we learn a little bit more about Ozpin's story right here. We learn that he was a prodigy, one of the youngest people to be elevated to headmaster status. And so Raven states, yes, that's the way he planned it. He was the one who built those academies, and so he would elevate himself to that point. And this leaves Yang and Weiss a little bit more confused. Remember, they don't know that Ozpin has this reincarnation-like ability. Yet, it's due to what Raven stated, this confirms that Ozpin was the King of Vale back during the Great War. Because as we remember, during that World of Remnant, we saw that the King of Remnant had the scepter, much like Ozpin's cane. It was uncanny to the point that they were so similar. And it's also stated in that World of Remnant that the King of Vale was able to slaughter thousands of people, and he was such good a fighter. And you would think that a fighter of that magnitude can only get that much skill through countless lifetimes of reincarnation. And also, in that World of Remnant, we learned that it was the King of Vale that set up the Huntsman Academies. And so, this all but confirms that Ozpin was the King of Vale in a previous life. And as the conversation proceeds, Raven then states that Salem is a real thing, and she tells Yang and Weiss what Salem is and what she's doing. That Salem is the one who controls the Grimm. And also, Raven does not believe that Salem can be stopped in any way. Raven has no hope, really, to the point where she believes that in some snowball's chance in hell, Raven can be stopped. Salem can be stopped. Raven has almost completely given up hope. When Yang replies that that makes no sense, Raven then states that she should question everything. They should be questioning everything, because they have always accepted just what has been given to them as fact, and they haven't really accepted anything as fact, or really listened to, or given like a second opinion about what may be going on in the world. And I find this a bit hypocritical, because essentially Raven is stating that they should question everything and they shouldn't just believe whatever somebody tells them. Yet she's also pretty much telling them to flat out believe what she is saying without questioning it. So, you know, Raven, I think you should work on your oralist skills, because it just seems a bit confusing. Raven also states that if you just blindly accept what is told to you, that you'll end up like a fool, like Crow and Tai Yang. Now, this sets Yang off. For her mother to call her father a fool, this angers Yang so much she completely destroys the little table that they were sitting at, and shouts out that Raven knows nothing about her because you were never there. And we also see that Vernal is not too far away, always there to help out her bandit leader, and she just has this weird weapon. I know that it has a name, like a shock rim or something like that. It's pretty much like a crescent-shaped sword dagger thing that has a gun in it, because everything has to have a gun in RWBY, but I'm just like, where's the practicality in that? Sometimes seeing these weapons in RWBY, it just takes me aloof, and I'm just like, why? I just don't like Vernal's weapon at all. I think I would have preferred it if she would have kept Weiss's rapier, and Weiss would have, like, recovered it later. I don't know. Raven states to Yang that she has seen more with her own eyes than Yang knows. She's seen, you know, all these crazy things, that magic exists, that people can come back from the dead. And some people have speculated maybe this is something about Pyrrha, but no, everyone, let's be real. She's talking about Ozpin. Ozpin can come back from the dead, essentially, because he can reincarnate. And she states that she can prove that magic exists. And to that, she then displays her uncanny ability to transform into a raven and then transform back into human form. Now, Yang states that she has seen that raven before. Now, we did see that raven at the end of Volume 3 when Yang was sitting moping around in her bed, and then a raven flew off. Now, this confirms that Raven has probably watched over Yang more than we know throughout her life. And she has also seen lots of other things. But the main drop of the mic bomb drop moment right here is that she states that Ozpin did this to her and Crow. He gave them this power. Now, that really begs the question. So, Ozpin has some form of magical power. Does this confirm the theory that he is actually the wizard who created the Four Maidens? Or is it some sort of magical power that he has acquired over his years as being reincarnated so many times? And what really gets my goat is that Raven treats this power of being able to turn into a bird as like the worst thing possible. I mean, I understand the whole idea with like, magic is real, it's weird, the entire world's being flipped upside down, I just blew your mind. I understand where she's trying to go with that, but it's almost like she's saying that like, oh yes, Ozpin gave me this power, and it's like one of the worst things that ever happened to me. Like almost mantling the ability to turn into a bird as the same as like having terminal cancer almost. Now, maybe the whole concept of, you know, I have the ability to turn into a bird and see so much, like, it just isn't enough for Raven's mind to comprehend just that whole thing. Like, I can see all, I could know all with nobody else knowing, and it's that knowledge that scares her. But you would think that she would flip that around and use it practically. I mean, as a bandit leader, you pretty much have an ability to spy on whatever settlement, whatever, you know, caravan you want without anyone really knowing about it and learning about the defenses, you know, where they're going, what's going on, about any place you want to attack. So it just seems that Raven doesn't see like the bright side of her situation. She's only concentrating on the negative part. But even the negative part really isn't all that bad. You have the ability to turn into a bird. Okay, I'm sorry that your life is so terrible? However, instead of answering any further questions after dropping a bomb like that, Raven simply opens up a portal and gives Yang and Weiss a choice. They can either stay, and she can answer all their questions that she wants, and her and Yang can have a fresh start. Or they can go to Crow, go to RWBY, and, you know, they can ask their questions there. But can they really trust someone who's kept so much from them? That's what she asks them. But to my opinion, it's not like Crow and Ozpin kept this information from them, like, maliciously. It's just like, you didn't really have to know about this stuff. It's the need-to-know basis of information, and I know that's kind of like drawing back to the whole villain thing with Cinder. Like, you'll know what you need to know, you know, when you need to know it, pretty much. But it's like, that sort of information, you wouldn't just tell anyone willy-nilly, because it's like world-breaking stuff. The existence of magic, the maidens, Salem, Ozpin's magical potential, it's all mind-blowing, and it's not like they need to tell everyone. So Yang and Weiss make the logical decision and decide to take their chances with Crow. Yang stating that all she cares about is that RWBY is safe. Once again, trying to get back those big sister points. But it almost seems to the point where Yang only really cares about RWBY and not so much anything else. I mean, it just seems like it might just be me how I'm interpreting it. And it also seems that when she states that, Raven almost takes, like, offense to that. She isn't aware, like, she isn't happy at the fact that she would choose RWBY over herself. Yang would choose RWBY over Raven. It almost feels like Raven has some form of animosity towards RWBY. Maybe it's the fact that Tai Yang is also her father, and Raven holds some form of animosity towards RWBY because it's like, Tai Yang, you went to Summer Rose as soon as I was gone, and you made this thing, and then Yang has become so connected to this other girl instead of, you know, maybe going after me. Maybe she holds some sort of animosity towards RWBY because of that, or maybe I'm just reading too much into it. But anyway, Raven states that next time they meet might not be such a good one. They may not be on friendly terms. And with that, Yang and Weiss leave through the portal and actually meet back up with Crow, who was expecting Raven because, you know, Raven portal. And with that, we jump to the third, the shortest, and the final part of this episode. We see that Team Ranger is preparing a great feast for everyone who's going to come. Remember, Crow was looking for huntsmen that were going to help them with their acquisition of the Spring Maiden. And so they're not sure how many people are going to arrive. They don't know that practically no one's going to come. And so they're preparing a whole bunch of food. And we get some more comedic moments with Nora, and we actually get some more, as what I'm going to say, Sage Ren, who seems to be, you know, the sort of like this all-knowing, very wise figure. He seems to be very good at cooking, not just pancakes, but, you know, other food. So I think that's a very good skill to have. It's good to have a cook on your team. And when Crow arrives and RWBY comes to meet him, we finally get the great reunion that we have always wanted and always needed. When she sees that Yang is there, RWBY is taken aback and just breaks down and starts apologizing to Yang that she should have stayed there, and she's so sorry that she had to go off, but she just had to. And Yang just simply goes up and hugs her and says, "I love you." And we all know where that's coming from. At the end of Volume 3, RWBY leaves Yang's room after Yang stated that she wanted to be left alone. When she leaves Yang's room, she says, "I love you," but never got an "I love you" back. And now, Yang is returning that "I love you." And it's come full circle, and I'm so glad that it did. And it just has the two of them holding each other, shedding a few tears, until finally they also bring Weiss into the hug. Because Weiss was their teammate, was their friend, and now she's here too? It's like the gang's all here. Team, Juniper is all there, and now most of Team RWBY is all there, and it's just a very, very touching reunion. Not only did Weiss get Yang back, but now essentially in the same day she's also got RWBY back. Probably her best friend from her time at Beacon Academy. Now, would I prefer to have more just Yang and Weiss time together? Yeah, I would have liked that a little bit. But, I mean, with the way that the series is going right now, this volume is going right now, I'm glad that they're finally getting the gang back together so now they can actually plan out what they're going to do, and it's actually feeling like Team RWBY again, like it's RWBY proper again. And with that, the episode ends. But I have the gnawing feeling that just someone's missing. Someone's missing from the group. Someone just isn't there who really should be. I just can't put my finger on it. Hey everybody out there in YouTube land, thanks for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed and actually were, enlightened at a couple of things that went on in this episode. I was so glad that I was able to break this one down. And so, if you're interested in seeing some other videos of mine, there's going to be links down in the description taking you to those things, as well as links taking you to my Twitter page and my Patreon page. If you want to help me out there, it really helps me getting out videos to you guys. So, and until next time, my friends, I want you to like and favorite if you've enjoyed, subscribe if you feel inclined to, and also, I want you to be a good person, tip your waitresses, keep moving forward. I'll see you guys next time I'm out there in YouTube land. I'll see you then. Yay-ho! Who could it possibly be? Oh! I know! Pyrrha! She's missing. Man, I really miss Pyrrha.